loud and clear. Might hear me on the radio. Breaker, breaker, 19. Anybody got their ears on?
Hey guys, it is Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here in the mountains, North Carolina. Tonight I want to tackle part 2 of the Midland MTX500. As you can see, I now have it permanently installed as a base station here at the house up on the roof. I have got that 6 dB gain antenna stationed up there on the antenna tower that I built some time ago. Went up there and added that to it and ran some coax down here, and I'm really happy with this thing. I've been playing with this and I got a funny story to tell as we go through it, but let me go ahead and turn it on and we'll go through some of the cool features that it has. But so the first day I had this thing, I had it on and I put it on to scan and it was going through, and you know, I live out in the middle of nowhere and I was kind of curious if I was going to pick up any signals. So I was working on the car and had this thing kind of going in the background and I heard a voice. So I stopped immediately, ran over here, and it was on scan, so it had already gone back into scan mode. And I waited for a minute or two and I didn't hear anything, so I walked away and then I heard a voice again. So this went on back and forth about 3 times, and finally I just decided I'm going to sit down and see if I can catch this conversation because I couldn't figure out what channel it was on. Boom! Finally I hear the voice again and I stopped the radio on that channel, and guess what I was hearing? And this is really, really weird because we are looking at probably 35 miles in any direction to the nearest one. I heard a restaurant. It was somebody taking fast food orders. How odd is that? That was really weird. That was the first thing I heard with this radio, was somebody ordering a milkshake. So I have no idea where that was coming from, but it certainly wasn't anywhere near here, and that was really, really cool. So definitely get some good range as far as the receive. I'm happy with that. And yeah, so I'm working on setting the MTX115 up in my truck with another 6 dB gain antenna, and then we'll be getting into some range tests. But for tonight, I wanted to go through the features and functions on this thing. It does have a lot going on, and let's go ahead. I'll make sure the volume's turned down. Let's go ahead and hit scan. That's this one right here, scan and monitor. So right now it's on a channel. If I want to change channels, I just use the regular channel selector knob here, right? But if I want to go to regular scan, it immediately goes to scan, and it is going to roll through. I have it set up to roll through the repeater channels, the FRS channels, and the GMRS channels. So there it goes. And it's just going to do that endlessly until it finds something. But let's say I want to listen to a certain channel. I'm going to stop it, right? Well, let's say I want to listen to, yeah, we'll say channel 15. If I want to listen to that and I want to know if I'm going to pick up some really faint signal, well, I want the squelch to turn on. I want to hear that static. So I'm going to hit that button and hold it. And there it is. Now I'm going to hear. So you turn the squelch off by doing that. Boop, and there it goes. And then you can go right back into scan if you would like. So that's kind of cool. But we have that button there. So that one covers that. Of course, over here, our volume and our up and down and on and off is switches there. One thing I do want to show before I go on here, here's our microphone. It does have the push to talk. But up on top, it does have our channel up and down. Oh, I've got it locked, and that's the other button I want to show, is this one right here. You can lock the features on this, so I'm able to roll through the channels, but if I don't want to accidentally bump it while I'm talking, I move that thing down, and now I'm not doing anything, no problems there, right? Right on. So let's go through some of these other buttons. The first one I want to talk about is the call button. This is like an emergency button. It reminds me of the red button on the police mics or the police radios. But press this button once and it's going to transmit a call, and there are adjustable sounds. So you can come up with, I think, 5 different ringtones, let's call them. But if I just press that once, it's going to automatically transmit. You can see the TX light, and it transmits on that channel. It's sending out a call to all other radios in the area. Now you can also enter in codes, so it wouldn't just go to broad spectrum. You'd be only going to other radios tuned into that code. We'll get into that feature here in a second. The next button here is the power mode, right? So if I'm going to go to I want to go to a repeater channel so I can get through all 5. So if I have nothing over here, RP, by the way, stands for repeater. If I have nothing here, that means I'm in high power mode. But if I press this button, I can go to mid, or I could go to low. Low power is going to be for FRS communications, but you can also use it on any of the channels. So if I go to, yeah, see how it's automatically on low. If I go to a FRS channel, no matter what I press, it's not going to make a difference. It's going to stay on low. So that's just something allowing you to transmit legally on the FRS channels at low power, but to be able to move into higher power stuff when you move into the regular channels. So that's cool. Over here, of course, is our power button. Turn it on and off through there. And the last button along the top here is the menu button. If you press and hold that, you'll come up with a variety of stuff here. First one's going to be restore. If I move that, it's going to say factory. If I were to hit that again, it would in fact change everything back to factory defaults. But if I just want to go through the stuff, I'm going to hit that again. And I'm going to go to the next button here, repeater on and off. I can change that to on or off. That's for the repeater channels. Well, I do want to keep those on. Okay, the next one up is lamp, and you have your brightness for the lamp. You can turn it off. And then that's your backlighting is what it's talking about. So I'm going to leave that at 2. Move that. We have our squelch control. You can change your squelch to off on all channels. That really would be interesting. You could definitely do that, or you can turn it all the way up to max. So I'm going to leave it pretty low because I do want to pick up those kind of rare signals. APD off. APD is your auto power off. So you can choose if I wanted to turn off after a certain amount of time or run it, 120 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever. So I don't know about that. I'm not really interested in using that, but I guess if you were running this on like an off-grid setup, you might want the power to shut down so you don't waste the battery. So auto power off. There's something you didn't know. Back into menu here. Next up here, total talk time, right? You can change that, how many seconds you want to allow transmission to go before it shuts down. I'm going to leave that off, but yeah, you can change it to 120 seconds. I guess if you're worried about overheating the finals, or I don't know what other reason you would want, but I'm sure there's reasons, you can turn it off. So I'll set that to off on this. Total time of transmit. All right, next up is the call. Could change our call. So if you want to change something, you change it. Let's say we'll go to number 4. You have to hit select to make that permanent. And then we'll let it go back out. And it changes the sound of the call. So like I said, there are 5 different call outs you can give. So I forgot to mention that earlier. I'm not really actually changing any of this stuff, but if you want to change it and make it permanent, you have to hit the select button to make that choice final. All right, go back into menu. And the next one is mute. It's menu. Like, do I want everything to beep? So I'm going to turn that. Well, if I leave it off, which is what it is, everything beeps when I press a button. If I turn that on, now it won't make any noise when I change any of this stuff. So it doesn't do anything as far as sounds go. So I kind of actually prefer to have it on this radio. I don't know why. On the CB I like to have it off, but so now you can hear the noises again, right? So that's just that right there, and I think that's nice of them to include a feature like that on this radio. And then this next one I haven't really played with much. Let me get into it. This is called Voice Commander. And so it's kind of like DSP, I think, digital signal processing. It might help clear up the signal. Obviously, I haven't had a whole lot of comms on this thing, not a lot of two-way conversations yet since I just installed it yesterday, but it is a function that's there. I look forward to trying it in both modes to see which one works better. So that's what that is, though. Comp is it's like a voice commander. It's really pulling the voice out of the static, I guess. Get back into menu. Next one is talk around. I can turn that on or off. So if you're on, I'm actually going to set that. If you're on a repeater channels, but the repeaters are out of range, that allows you to talk simplex, like person to person, without using the repeaters on the repeater channels. Nice option to have. In fact, for my area, it probably don't have a repeater in range. So for this base station, keeping it on that so I can talk simplex on repeater channels is a great setup. So that's what that one does. And then lastly, and this is kind of a weird one, get back into menu one more time. You can actually make this a listen-only radio. I turn that, I can change the TX so it won't transmit, but of course I want to leave that on, so you can turn the transmitting function on and off via the menu. So lastly, I want to talk about this, and this one is a little more complicated for those of you who are used to CB, so I'll try to not butcher it too badly, because to be honest with you, it's not something I use a whole lot. I know the feature exists on stuff, but it's not something I've really used because I kind of want to talk to a bunch of different parties or a bunch of different people. I'm not really interested in having private comms. But this radio has the ability to do so. And what you're looking at is the ability to use tone-controlled squelch. So if I make I could just select a tone that's going to play when I key down. And if the other radio on the other side hears that tone, it will know to break squelch and listen to what I say next. If the radio is not programmed to do that, it will not pick it up. If I'm on tone control, so if I were in an area that there were a lot of conversations going on and I only wanted to talk to 2 or 3 people, that would be something where we would pick the tone control, and it, you know, I don't know, you could change it to whatever code you wanted to, and then that would be you'd give that number to everybody else in the group, and they would now allow them to have the same thing. And as you can see, it's now activated tone controlled squelch. So I'm keying down, and it's sending out a signal. But if I had another radio, and maybe we'll play with it when I have it hooked up in the truck, that you would only be able to receive that if you both were on that same thing. So, right. And then lastly, we have privacy codes, right? So if I press that once, we're back in there. If I press it again, we go to digital privacy codes, really. And there's lots of options. I think there's 104 different options. So by doing that, if I leave that activated, now I'm again making this conversation private. So it's only going to activate with that code. And it's not encrypted now, mind you, but it helps to keep down if you were in an area with a lot of conversations, that this conversation could be private. So if I was on one system and say I had 50 or 60 different people that all had the same radios, and I wanted to have different groupings, that would be another way of accomplishing that goal. That's pretty cool features, pretty high-end features, to be honest with you, for a radio, a GMRS radio like this. This one being 40 watts is pretty powerful. I think it's the best one Midland currently makes. I am hoping, and I don't know that this is going to come to pass, but I'm really hoping that Midland decides to come out with a genuine base station for their GMRS radios. I think it would really round out the collection. I think this paired with a real high gain base antenna would really be something, especially if you were out in a very wilderness area and had a bunch of, well, I just keep thinking of park rangers. If you had park rangers that had a bunch of handhelds, and you wanted to be able to make sure that you get a good range between those and base, that would be a great option. So I'm hopeful that Midland will come out with a base antenna for this, but overall I'm really happy with it. Like I said, working on getting the install in the truck, and I'll be doing a review of that radio, the 115, and then we'll be ready to get into those range tests. So I hope you'll stick with me. Of course, we also got the little handhelds we'll play with as well once we get everything up and running. But for tonight, that is it. I am Eric, the owner of Farpoint Farms. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.